Um, we're gonna get this thing rolling, man. This is Truth Seekers Temple, man, and it's the You Are the Church podcast, man. I got my brothers on here tonight, and tonight we talking about nation building and history. And one of the things that I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding is that when you historically look at any place in this world, we were there first, including the Americas. And for some reason, people have a very hard time getting out of that brainwashing that was done to them by their history teachers and unfortunately, by their family. Because for some reason, every person of color just decided that they were going to get kidnapped and brought over here one day. And I'm oversimplifying a very, very horrible point in time, but at the same time, a lot of us were not only here, but are indigenous here. Born and raised, grandmother born and raised, great grandmother born and raised. There's proof that people who look like us were here tens of thousands of years before Christopher Columbus was even conceived. So when you look at that history and the fact that for some reason it's purposefully omitted and ignored, and we're going to explore the reason a little bit later here today. I mean, it's almost a saddening fact that when you look at the ancestry and the people who gave you your heritage, they have to be very pissed off in the afterlife of being forgotten. They have to be. The fact that you are reaching across an ocean to remember ancestors that are not even in your bloodline, that's got to be a little bit annoying, to your ancestors who are in your bloodline. And for some of us, man, it just resonates different. I don't knock any brothers for claiming their heritage. Some brothers' heritage is African, but I was always raised to know that my heritage was indigenous here to this country. So it never blew my mind, never scared me, never shunned me, never made me feel like anybody was speaking reckless when they talked about their connection to this land. And as I explored it, it just got more and more deeper in my family. Pause there, and as we were running through 2006, me, Moorish Society, Washitas came together. Lumbees were there, and we fought for our indigenous rights. We're like, yo, not only do we want recognition, we want an opportunity to be free right here in this country. I'm not moving anywhere. I'm not running anywhere. We'll fight, die, and do whatever we have to do to be recognized here, but you're not going to take our heritage away from us. And they said something that was so profound that we didn't get it until they came out the next year. The next year, they actually wrote a document stating what they meant. They said to us, we can't tell you who you are. And I didn't understand it at the time. I was 22, 23. I was very, very upset that they didn't just say, hey, you got your recognition. They said, no, we can't tell you who you are. The next year, the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Declaration comes out from the UN. And it basically gave anyone who claimed the heritage of an indigenous person the right to claim that heritage just by the fact that European colonization stole it from you. So if you reclaim it, guess what? We don't have the right to tell you who you are. You need to tell us who you are. And the document basically outlines the steps and the ways that you can just express that heritage without having to, ask anybody for permission or recognition. When I see lawsuits being levied against, different tribes for, not recognizing their members who look like us, I'm kind of like, okay, that's your method of doing it. I hope it all works out, but I'm never gonna let somebody tell me who I am or who I'm not, and I'm never gonna beg somebody to recognize what's already in my blood, what I already recognize about me. And for the last few years, man, a brother that's on the line with us tonight, man, I'm graciously honored to have him on, has been dropping this knowledge in a succinct, well documented, well structured way. I've never seen it documented as well, to be honest with you. And the way he has shared the history is something that we've been talking about with the UN for the longest. They have been begging us to do exactly what this brother has been doing. So just so it's archived, documented, and it's put in museums and national archives for the future generations who understand their heritage and want to claim it. So the night is a very powerful night, man. And, I'm glad to have the brother, Curie Mayo on tonight, man, to just kind of not only just talk about his heritage, but definitely share, some of the insights that he's been gaining as he's been doing this work. because you don't do this work and come away from it the same. You come away more empowered, you come away more emboldened, you come away feeling like, man, I actually have a sense of purpose. I actually know who I am. And for every person of color in America, I know it's something that you wrestle with. If you're truly conscious of self, man, it bothers the hell out of you. You can sit down next to a European. Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? What's your family? Oh, well, I'm Irish on my mother's side. I'm German on my father's side. And we got some Cherokee in there too. You know, I can go back to my great grandmother and they can start breaking down the history of their entire family. And then they go, what are you? And you go, I'm black. I'm a crayon or some shit. You know, I don't really, you know, I really can't tell you. I just know that I got some Indian in me. My people from South Carolina, and that's all I really know about my heritage. That's something that is very heartbreaking, but it's also something that denies you a sense of identity if you don't dig into it. So I've had more people than any other point in life reach out to me, not only from, you know, doing these broadcasts with you brothers, but just as amongst a crew, and just saying, yo, how do I now do the research that you've done? How do I now, you know, kind of explore my family history? And you know, tonight that's something that we're gonna definitely dive into. So you know, with no further ado, man, Curie Mayo, man, you mind, you know, just kind of jumping in, just kind of talking about your journey, your work, and you know what kind of inspired you to do it.
Yeah, hi, peace to everybody. Um, yeah, well, since I was little, I was always into history. You know, ancient history. You know, we read about ancient Egyptians and even prehistory and all the civilizations and all that, and there was always a mystery, right? When it gets to a certain point, you
Right.
know, there's always like they don't know. There's a mystery. They start, you know, that's when everybody starts including their beliefs and the cultural background into everything, and you end up with aliens building pyramids, and you know it's just you know. So I just always wanted to be try to look at things a little bit more factual. When the internet first came out, you know, I would search for things, and it was just like all these crazy, you know, websites and everything. There was no real sources, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really have the access to a lot of the sources that we have now. Um, So, you know, it's just getting good at being able to search and what is the source and how to rely on the information, how to cross reference, like you were saying earlier, how to cross reference, you know, and it leads, if you're just about truth, it leads to certain conclusions, you know, when you try to go factual, if you, and you leave out the personal beliefs and, you know, because it gets to the point where we got to start up, you know, showing or really knowing what is your background. It's not just a one-sided story that they told you. It's really a lot. It's very complex.
Mm-hmm.
Your genealogy is huge. It's not just one grandma, one grandpa. It's a lot of grandmas and grandpas. A
Facts.
lot of different possibilities and lines, you know, and that's what we're uncovering. You know, and just in the journey, it's been a whole journey. You know, I'm learning. We're all learning, and I get a lot of help from a lot of people. Um, so you know, I learned from a lot of people. Actually, that's what motivated me to do the channel, and just because I'm just good at. I've been doing this on my own just to prove it to myself for a long time. You know, studying. You know, there was something like in 2001 after 9/11 that kind of woke me up, and I just, you know, from there, just wanted to really know things.
Man,
Yeah, I mean,
man, that's a very deep story, man. And not only was you kind of born to want to know your history and your heritage, but you know, you kind of took the next step, which I think a lot of people, you know, have sometimes a little hesitation about, is like you wanted to uncover the truth. You didn't care if you rocked the boat, you didn't care if you made people feel a certain way for you sharing your truth. You went out here and dug in the sand and, you know, found, you know, more and more parts of yourself. That's a very powerful thing to do, brother. Um, what do you think you feel like is kind of one of your biggest oppositions, bro? Because if you share the types of information and heritage that you're sharing right now, man, I know there has to be some pushback, some backlash. I know people have to have some very interesting things to say about what you're uncovering because they're ignorant to it, number one, and then number two, because they are either caught up with you feeling like you're taking away from their heritage or infringing upon what their heritage is. I mean, I really don't know why somebody would be mad about you sharing this information. I'm making it up as I go because when I see the information that you're sharing from the research I've been doing the last 10, 20 years in my family, it makes perfect sense. It fits everything I've been able to find. And we have not shared the same information. We have not shared the same resources. I've not sent you links. You've not sent me links over the years, but yet and still we ended up at the same place. And
Yeah,
that's deep.
yeah, that's kind of like what I was trying to say. Like if the info is, if you're about truth and the info is leading to one, I mean, eventually it's, I mean, it could only be one truth, you know. So we're gonna end up in the same place. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that disagree. I would say, 10%. I mean, um, I don't really worry about the 10%. Like there's 90% of people who really understand the info and take the information and verify it and or confirm it actually. So a lot of the info I put out, I get in the comments people that actually confirm the information. It's in their heritage and their family's history and genealogy, and they send me all the stuff. It's so much information that was left out. So there's a lot of information still to be revealed and understood by everybody. um it's a whole paradigm shift, a whole shift in perception, orientation.
Mm-hmm.
It's psychological, it's spiritual, it's a lot of things.
Definitely, bro. Definitely. When you are kind of going through some of the information that you're finding right now, what are some of the new facts that you find, man? I mean, you've done a lot of celebrity lookalike photos. It's just mind blowing. My mother was tripping. She saw the one with Ti. She was like, "Oh my god, that is crazy." So, like,
Yeah.
as you now start to kind of get further along the journey, man, like, what kind of truths have been opening up for you? Like, what have you been kind of feeling, seeing, and realizing within your journey?
Well, a real big truth is that whether it was the first or not place where whether we're going to go with facts or with legend and myths and talking about Atlantis and Lemuria, but when we talk about facts, we can prove the oldest civilization, the oldest agriculture, all that it was in America. Mummification, pyramid building, writing, all that. So with factual and oral history and everything, we correlate that the true old world was the Americas. Um, there's and there's duplicates, but all that is what I present, and I try to show why, why we were saying that, and it's not just me. Like you said, I just try to show the sources and let people conclude. And but it's a whole bunch of information that we never got in school, that we never. They'll quote a book, and they'll show like two sentences in a 600-page book, and when you go read the actual book, everything else, you're like, wow, man. So these are primary sources, like people from those times writing what they saw, what, how kind of Indians they encountered, what they were doing, what they resembled, everything. Anthropology,
Right, right. So one of the most interesting things we've been able to do is kind of just not only just reclaim our heritage, you know what I'm saying, and our birthright, but be able to now, live out, certain truths, certain rituals, certain customs that were just, given to us, you know what I'm saying, just by blood. And I believe truly that, you know what I'm saying, like as you take this journey, your ancestors start pushing you further and further down the rabbit hole as far as you can go. So one of the things that became very, very powerful, man, for us is doing an indigenous peoples, kind of federation, a union. And when we set that up, it ended up kind of, man, it ended up becoming like a brotherhood, man. It's very crazy, man. It's hard to get everybody's schedules tied down, but when we get together, man, it's magical. The amount of information that is shared, the amount of just love and compassion. I mean, this is not an easy journey, right? So you tell somebody that, who comes up to you and be like, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying, black people got it hard. I'm like, yeah, that's very true, man. Black people do have it hard, man. And well, why do you identify yourself as black? Oh, well, my family's black. I was like, okay, where's your family from? Man, you know what I'm saying? We from right here. We from, East Texas. We from, Nebraska, New Jersey, wherever. I'm like, oh, okay, then what do you know about your heritage before then? Oh, well, all of us came off the slave ship. So, they stole that from us. I was like, oh, well, I kind of, did some research. I realized that, my family heritage is actually Anya Yawia. You know what I'm saying? Like, she Anya Yawia. Well, what's that? You know what I'm saying? I said, oh, that's what you call, Native Americans. Oh, I got some Indian in me too. And right then and there, like it's the craziest thing in the world. Right then and there, like it lights a light bulb in people's heads. Like it starts to click with them. Like I don't know if the ancestors start talking to them, but whatever, they'll start telling you about the native and their family lineages. And you'll hear that conversation, and then at the end of that conversation, I always ask them, well, why do you still identify as black? Because basically that's what you've been brainwashed into calling yourself. You've got Native heritage, and you both sides of your family, and for some reason, we're more comfortable calling ourselves black or African American because I think it's more comfortable to side with something that people are just willing to accept. The biggest proponents to you reclaiming your heritage, I think for me and a lot of other brothers who do it is really, other African Americans, you know what I'm saying? Like other people who identify as black or whatever they want to call themselves. It's almost like it hurts them that you don't identify as black. It pisses them off that you don't identify as African American. I've always been blown away by that. Like what somebody else calls themselves never really hurt me. It's never really done anything to, make me feel any type of way at all. So that's kind of always been one of the most interesting things, man. I sat down on my honeymoon. No, this is actually my anniversary. And I was on a boat sitting next to a total stranger. And he was, Caucasian man. He was talking about all kind of different things, politics, history. It was a really good conversation. And I shared with him, I'm Annie Will, that's my heritage, so I'm your Massey on my father's side too. And when we started talking about it, he goes, oh man, that's crazy. And he pulls out a North Carolina Cherokee card. And I laughed at him. I said, well, you know what I'm saying? Hey man, Osio Tohichim. He was like, oh, wait a minute now, I don't speak. I'm like, oh, okay then, I got you. You Cherokee by blood, but not necessarily by heritage. I got you. You know what I'm saying? He started laughing. He said, well, there's some benefits to it. My daughters went to school for free and this and that. I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. So if anything that kind of rubs me the wrong way is the cats that, claim this heritage for some type of US government benefit, versus actually, saying that they're claiming their heritage for not only it's because of their birthright, but because they actually want to live their heritage. They actually want to honor their ancestors. So that one kind of threw me off a little bit there, man. Canty, I know you, bro. Like, I know you got some things brewing over there. I already know Trey does as well. But what you got going on with you, Canty, man? I felt you through the phone, bro. I know you wanted to say something. You on mute right now, bro.
All right, how about that?
What would you say?
How about that? Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I had it on mute going through this place. Ironically speaking, I'm actually in Louisiana right now, driving to where I'll be in Lafayette tomorrow. But as I've gone through my journey, and when John first revealed this to me about 2 years ago, maybe it was 2.5 years ago. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, brothers, and this is before I got woke up. I'm not gonna say I woke up. I got woken up, and I had kept going comfortably back to sleep, And then, what wakes you up is the trauma. And I had enough trauma in 2020 that finally I got up and stayed up. Well, when John first told me about it, I'll be honest with you, I just kind of walked away thinking to myself, all right, Gathers has finally lost it. What the hell are you talking about? I'll be honest, that's what I said. And I'd always known about, my family's from Manning, Clarendon County, South Carolina. Manning to be exact, Davis Station to be even more exact. And I'd always known my family had, from what I remember, on my grandmother's side, on my father, Blackfeet Indian. And my mother's, her folks are from the Cape Verde Islands. And they came here in the early 1900s. But I always identify more with my father's side. But I mean, Cape Verde is an African nation. It's considered black, considered black. But I mean, I had always identified myself with that. But after I started getting into this truth, like you said, there's one truth, and if you keep digging, you lead yourself to it. I started discovering a lot of things and came back into this. And I'm like, and after I'm an engineer, I like to reference and cross-reference thing, and I like to play a historian as well. And I started remembering.
Yo, you're in a bad spot, Canty.
Okay, hold on. What, you want to move on? Can you hear me?
There you go. You back.
Okay, all right. I'll try to make it brief. But basically, I think I might have apologized to Gathers. I'm like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Because I came into it. And now it's got me going back. And we had already done a lot of research into my family tree. But I just remembered my father, before he died, saying certain things to me. And my dad had a pretty unique look. But so did a lot of people he grew up with. And it was kind of it just was a very unique look that wasn't what you would call, I had always thought it was the mixing with the white race long ago, but they really couldn't find much of that. But just a unique, and I'm delving into that. I'll stop there, but it's something I'm definitely, I started looking into it in terms of the nation building as we determine where our nation's going to be. And there are strategic reasons why we need to have connections with Africa from a tactical, militaristic point of view. Because at the end of the day, gentlemen, I don't think this is going to go down without a fight. They're not just going to give this up. So we have to be prepared to defend ourselves. But now that I'm getting into this, and I'd love to hear more about this from the gentleman of honor, is what are the next steps in that nation building? Because, I mean, I'm at the point where my personal opinion is separation is going to become necessary, particularly as this country falls apart, which is it's in the throes of doing. So I'll stop there, John. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
No, brother, I appreciate your opinion and your support always, brother. Love you, man.
I love you too. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just to add in right there, I grew up with Cape Verdeans in Boston, so I know a lot of the history of Cape Verde. That was I speak Cape Verdean. I was like family, So yeah, they're West Coast Africa, but Cape Verdeans are basically Sephardic Jews and Moors and Native Americans. That's what Cape Verdeans are mostly. The whalers, the whaling, all that was all Native Americans that taught them, the Moors, the Sephardic Jews on the ships. They made it a business. So it was through the Native American knowledge of whaling. Like the Wampanoags and all these East Coast, they used to go to Cape Verde all the time. And they also worked on the ships to go get salt. There was indentured servants on the ships for the Portuguese and for the Spaniards. And yeah, many Indians were taken to Cape Verde, but also the Sephardic Jews and Moors that were being expelled from Spain were going to Cape Verde. And these were the so-called Negroes and Africans they were saying they were enslaving. It was And that part, I
You,
was just wanted to say, go ahead.
Nah, he was probably gonna tell you like he grew up in Boston as well. So you know what I'm saying? That's
Okay.
where he came up. Yeah.
yeah, I grew up in Boston, Dorchester to be exact, and then the South Shore.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm from Dorchester.
man,
Yeah.
brother, we got
Fifth
700 Blue
corner.
Hill Ave, man. 700 Blue Hill Ave between
Blue Hill Ave, yeah.
yeah, right between right across from Franklin Park, between American
Yeah.
Legion and Columbia Road.
All right. I went to the Sarah Greenwood right on Harvard Street. So right there right to near Franklin Park.
You
Yeah, we
know,
used to play soccer there in the 80s. It was against countries. It was, that was
well,
funny.
you know, 700 Blue Hill Ave across from Franklin Park, Walnut Cleaners, the big cleaners there.
Yeah.
That's my family. That's where I grew up. I grew up in that building.
That's cool. That's cool.
When you're talking about Wampanoags, my father had a close connection to them. And I would always, as a little kid, say, they look black, but they say they're Native Americans. But my dad he just vibed with those guys. He vibed with them brothers. And now I'm beginning to understand why. I mean, when I say he vibed with him, I mean he went down to his Masonic lodge down there, and he bought a property down at Cape Cod in 1979. He got it when he would get us out of Boston during the crack epidemic. He'd give us the keys to the house in the Cape and say, "You stay down there." We had a lot of fun with the Wampanoags. A lot of fun.
Blessings.
A lot of fun. So I mean, I had always felt a connection to him, but I didn't know why. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Just try to do your genealogy. You might find out a lot of things.
Well, I ain't got no choice now. Well, you done took a pair of battery cables and put them on my ears, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'll shut up now.
Nah, you good, bro. That's empowering, man. Trey, what you got, bro?
Man, so you said something earlier, and I was over here. You know how they say a hit dog holler? I'm over here with my camera off, screaming.
I already know what it was.
Man, cause man, and my brother DJ on here now, so I gotta go ahead and kick my apology from the deepest recesses of my soul, man, because I definitely did that to him the first time we was on here, just because we was having a disagreement about some other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So let me turn my camera on so you can see my face, so you can know that how deep this apology is coming from my soul. My God, you can't even see my face right now, but man, like I literally did this to you the last time, and that's not even how we get down, and that's not even how I should have played this when we was doing this. So I mean, I'm in the middle of the kitchen, so I'm gonna cut my camera back off, but man, yeah, so and like kind of what Brother Kennedy was saying, man, like I'm trying to open my eyes and flick them open, but you know the hag's still riding me at this point, because that's what we was taught. That's how I was raised, and like a lot of different things based off of how you appear still are reinforced on us and forced upon us in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And like I understand the numerous benefits, and like man, I know my grandma. Like I look at pictures of my grandma, and I was talking to my mom the other day, like she is Native, like that's just what she is. But like I'm still out here claiming and portraying to be Black just because like that's the simplest thing. That's what I was raised on. That's what I was given. So man, like I'm definitely interested in nation building, and definitely interested on like being better, doing things in better ways than like what's been handed down to us. Because you know, like that's always my thing, making sure like we skipping steps for future generations, so they don't got to be a Trey swearing that he's Black when you like, nah, bro, you Native, and you can just believe that from birth instead of him hearing that from everybody else. So like,
It's deep. That's deep, yo. That's deep, Trey. That's deep.
yeah. So I'm screaming, bro. I'm trying, dog. A DJ. My bad, dog.
Oh man, DJ used to
Bro, I had to switch my stuff up. My computer wouldn't let my mic come on, so I just jumped on my phone. But bro, trust me, it's I've been partaking in this information for a while. It's no hard feelings. As an educator and as your brother, I'm supposed to be patient with you as you go through your experiences, because how I come into the information isn't the same way how you can come into the information. So it takes time for everybody to come into their level of realization that I'm not a crayon color and oh shit, this is my land. But it was like when you wake up, man, it click in, it changes your whole dynamic of how you deal. You operate, you start carrying yourself in that capacity. The other nations around can tell too.
That's huge, bro.
Bless
That's
me, bro. I
huge.
appreciate that forgiveness, dog.
That's huge.
Trust me, it's all love, bro.
Yo, Trey, let me ask you a quick question, bro, because me and you had this conversation, oh man, years ago, right? So when you look at just lens-wise, like heritage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like more so of I don't know what my indigenous heritage is, so it feels crazy to say it? Or does it feel like it's a betrayal of my Black heritage to acknowledge my yo DJ, you stupid. Yo, you stupid. Yo, or is it more so it's a betrayal of my Black heritage when you try to, uncover your native heritage, your indigenous heritage?
Nah, so I don't feel like it's a betrayal. I just don't know it, because like going back and like talking to my family about those things, they pretty much don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
So they say pretty much the same thing that we say, like we're from here.
Gotcha.
Like that's all we know. The far as we can trace back is this person, and we just know that they stayed in South Carolina, and they say traditionally Black African American name. So it's just like, okay. But as we look at, and like how you said with celebrity lookalikes, like we ain't no way in hell my grandma just was Black.
Yo, it's unreal, yo. And DJ, I actually got that brother on, tonight, man. Curry Mayo, man. He's on tonight. That has been dropping those videos for a while, man. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm like, it's easier. It's a lot of easy ways in order to tell that you're indigenous. One is phenotype, your genetics, because a lot of us has a conception that we're African. Most Africans don't grow beards. They don't.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen an African with beards? Is because of
yo, that's crazy.
like real talk, bro. Because of the genetic placement and how hot it is, like hair grows differently, and us with like the indigenous people to the Americas are like we have a different curl pattern. My empress do hair, so like I'm a C, like I have deep curls. When you see Africans, they have kinky, knotty hair. Based on our genetics, you can also tell your attachments.
That's deep.
It's simple things, like we just gotta use what's been given to us. Observation. It was the first aspects of like how we started dealing in science. All we used was our eyes, and then we started taking down data, like literally, it's right in front of you.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that perspective greatly, bro. One of the more interesting aspects of this too, though, is you jumping in on something else?
No, man, my computer is tweaking right now, bro.
Uh-oh.
Oh, now my mic want to work. It wasn't working earlier.
Which one you want to stay on?
I'm fixing it right now, bro.
I bet.
Hold on. Bet. I need to be able to see everybody.
Do you mind if I throw something in there, John?
No, please, yo, please jump in.
The brother was talking about the beard. This beard I have, I could not grow it. This is personal, but I think it's relevant. I couldn't grow a beard until my father died, and I started growing one. I literally couldn't do it. I looked like a little kid whenever I grow facial hair. And I was a military guy, always clean shaven. Military contractor, military guy, blah, blah, blah. When I came into this truth, I mean, the beard had already kind of started getting thick. It grew to what you see right now. What you just said about having beards, I thought about everything, and I know a lot of Africans, and I don't know that many that do, if any at all.
I couldn't think of one. Yo, Ken, I couldn't think of one. I
couldn't think of one.
I know a lot of them.
I know a lot of them.
That's crazy. Let
me ask this question. My Bible's there, but I can't look at it right now because I'm driving. Leviticus 24:8, 24:6.
You going in and out, bro. You in the woods. DJ, you on mute too, bro.
Excuse me. I was just about to ask, like the Hebrew Israelites, because we see the depictions of this particular people, and they got big beards, bro.
About not cutting your beard, not getting tattoos. I really got into that as, am I free?
Yo, you in and out,
Hello?
bro. You in and out.
All right, let me be quiet, man, because I'm over here screaming.
Nah, you good. You good. We can hear you now. It's funny that you say that. Yeah, now you're coming through clear.
Okay, I just was mentioning about the beards. I mean, y'all. Then the brother talked about, Hebrews having big beards. My question is, how many of the folks who are already here? And John, you and I talked about this yesterday. Can you talk about the spiritual background of them, of all of them, as it relates across the board?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Curie.
I just wanted to add, just to help with a very overall understanding of a big part of the ancestry and the real history. Like he was just saying, how many were here, how many came in. See, because one of the other big truths that is being revealed right now is that not, when we think of a European, we were brainwashed to believe in automatically that was a white, pale-skinned person, blue eyes, white person, what we think of white people, and that's very false. And so most of the Europeans before the 1800s were actually colored Europeans. Yeah, they were coming in, settling in. These Black Irish, these Black Dutch, these Sephardic Jews and Moors that were being expelled from all over, and they were coming and mixing with the Indians a lot, and so that's that's just a big part of the overall understanding of most of our like in the whole America's heritage, and most of us got Sephardic Moriscos or crypto Jews or Huguenots or the Black Irish, Black Scots, Germans, Palatines, these Moors that were coming in, that were mixing in with the Indians as well.
Yeah, I mean, what you said too is a mouthful, brother, because I don't believe anybody has 100% pure, this is just, your bloodline, right? Not only just because it was, when you look at from the spiritual perspective, right? There is no color barriers for our ancestors, right? You know what I'm saying? Spiritually. Everybody had color in their skin, kind of like what you were saying. So now it's just based on the merits of who you are as a person, how you carry yourself, and how you interact with your fellow man, fellow woman. And all people were seen as honorific, right? So if you look at some of the ancient Olmec statues, you have some Olmecs who look like they were straight out of Mongolia. You have some Olmecs that look like they were straight out of Africa. You have some Olmecs that look like they some brothers that's standing on the corner right now. So when you look at that, you're looking at more so of bloodline being a common factor just in where these people live, a bunch of mixing, but yet and still you're looking at the spiritual aspect of kind of being the overall governance of it. You know what I'm saying? Because we all practice the same spiritual aspects of God, however you want to call them. But that spiritual aspect is what's giving us the ability to kind of interact with each other without having to feel like we're jealous, having any wars, having any type of disillusion of any unions that we put together, because we all have the same spiritual metrics. And I've talked to some brothers who were Hebrew Israelite. I've talked to some brothers who were Muslim. I talked to some brothers who were Christian. I mean, I talked to brothers all over. I got a pretty big network. And the higher levels of understanding and the higher connectivity with God, not only do you have a bigger level of tolerance of other differences, but you have a bigger level of understanding to say, you know what, here are some of the ways and where my tradition, I think, got it wrong. Here are some of the ways where my tradition, I think, got it right. And here are some of the ways where no matter what tradition you celebrate, here's the common goal of all spiritual traditions. We just have different ways of going about reaching them. And
What's the goal of
go
all
ahead, DJ.
What's the common goal of all spiritual traditions?
Oh, I think the spiritual traditions, number one, elevate to yourself to have your good, strong personal relationship with God. And as that relationship with God betters you, you go out here and better the world. You do God's work. You know, you become God's benefactor, God's living vessel of, manifestation of his work in this world. And I think that's what ends up bringing everybody together, not only just the charitable side of it, but also the justice side of it. When we talk on here, a lot of times we definitely talk, spiritual and charitable, but it's also none of our ancestors were pussies. You weren't about to come in here and take our land. You wasn't about to take nothing from us, and you don't make recompense before we good. It wasn't no turn the other cheek going on. So, go ahead, DJ.
About that, us not being the P word. Show me pictures of us smiling in history.
Yeah, it's deep.
Shit wasn't sweet. Like, we was stern and we meant what we meant all the time.
Stood on what we stood on, yo. I have never seen a picture of a smiling indigenous person.
That's why, this is the reason why I love the age that we're in, because teaching is like blowing up and stuff right now. And it's getting to the point where a teacher's salary will soon rival an athlete's salary, because we've been conditioned for us to be entertainers. And that's that shucking and jiving and smiling mentality versus us being serious and handling our business and, nation building.
And I agree with you a whole 100%, man. I think anybody who works in this particular life path, you have a seriousness about you that is like way far beyond the norm, because it's a connection. It's like, no, I'm not asking you for anything. This is mine. I'm just going about the way that I need to govern myself to be able to obtain it. And back to kind of what Ken was saying, man, on the spiritual point, man, like when you have a spiritual unity that allows you to seek God in your own individual way, your own individual relationship with God, but yet still be a part of a collective, then to me, that's true spirituality. I do not think that any of our ancestors had a spiritual system that omitted somebody else because they didn't necessarily follow that same tradition or path.
I completely agree. And that is my biggest issue with a particular set of individuals, because how are you supposed to condemn me to hell because I was never educated in the manner in which you was? And this is what was dropped on the indigenous culture here in the Americas. And we see when it happened in other cultures and these people come out there bringing this book. I got one. I got a family. And when they come bringing this book, they get shot up with arrows, bro. It's stories of it happening.
Yo, I mean, it's almost, I call it ritualistic genocide, right? I know a young woman who's coming upon these sciences, and we met in a restaurant just because I was wearing, some indigenous gear, And she was like, oh, we started rapping. She was like, she called me maybe about 2-3 days later, and she was like, man, I don't know what to do right now. Like, when I met you, I felt like this was the first time I had a chance to talk with somebody who was vibing on the same wavelength. I was like, what you talking about? She was like, yo, my family is traditional historical Christians, yo. And right now I'm being put out of my house because I've awoken to these truths, and I don't want to go back to sleep. Like, I don't want to go back to that tradition. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, let me kind of make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You're a young woman, and your mother is willing to kick you out of her house for not being Christian rather than just letting you live your truth.
That
Bro,
sound
if
Christian, right?
tell a melanated,
Not really Christian, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of broke into my mind. Like, what value is that? Jesus was drop kicking niggas out of the church. Like, nigga, get out of here, nigga. They wouldn't even let Jesus in with the sandals. He was like, Jesus, you got a fucking potato sack on some sandals. You're not getting into church like that, son. Like, it's like, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me how people can take religion and just completely, twist it in a way where you can't even build a relationship with God, yo. It's amazing. It's amazing to me, man. But Ken Canty, man, that's just kind of what I had on that, man. Like, it was more spiritual unity back then than it ever was today. You know what I'm saying? Believe that.
oh, that's man. We was just talking about this. I don't know who I was expressing it with, but it had to be one of my close peers. The aspect of community, like back home in Detroit, I can't get away with anything, even as an adult, because I look just like my mama. And even when I go on the block,
Gotcha.
like people point me to, oh, you Peach's son, oh, you Queen's son, and like literally, they know my mother, they know my grandma, they know my face. So you remember, like, ain't nobody messing up on this block. Street lights on, you ain't home. Everybody know who each person mama is. All this stuff is nothing. We don't have that anymore. There is no community.
Agreed, bro. Agreed. That's kind of what the conversation is evolving into now, is actually bringing that back, because it's really incumbent upon our generations to do that. You know what I'm saying? And it's really on our shoulders to make sure that the next generation has that sense of community, because we see what is happening now that they don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, your heritage is actually being used to enslave you. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Like, you got a bunch of tattoos on, and you come off a reservation and you say, you know what I'm saying, I'm Muskogee. Oh, it's cool. That's a part of your heritage. You so-called African American, or a brother with a bunch of tattoos on. You a fucking thug. You was a drug addict. You know what I'm saying? You was an ex-con. Like,
bro, it don't even matter that you got tattoos, bro. Look, I have that's a Thunderbird. It don't even matter. Nope. They just gonna look at you.
You's a thug, homie. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's amazing how that works, bro. From a historical perspective, though, man, out of curiosity, man, I just want to know what the brothers feel like when it comes to taking the time, the effort, and the energy to now take your history, or the history that you found about your ancestors, and start living that truth. What does that look like for you brothers, man? You know what I'm saying? I know, DJ, we gonna get to you last. I already know what that looks like, you know what I'm saying? Because you've been sharing this for too long. But for other brothers on the line tonight, man, what does that look like for you when you're talking about reclaiming your heritage, man? Curie Mayo, man, I'm actually kind of curious what that looks like for you, bro.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of like a big mission over here, like kind of for me as well, like, just like kind of the same things you guys go through. uh you know because the genealogy, we were putting missions since 1569. They gathered all the Indians and put them in missions and stuff. And but yeah, I have, both sides. I did my genealogy, the Indians and the Sephardic, Moorish people that came, Portuguese, Spaniards that were coming. So it's deep, because they only wanted us to claim like we were just like 98% or 99% Spaniard. And when I did my genealogy, it was totally different. Just like what you guys are finding out. And we kind of got the same thing here. We got reservations here, and people do look a little bit more Asian and stuff, more like Filipinos and stuff. And
Excuse me,
it's
bro.
kind of like the same. Yeah,
What area are you in?
Costa Rica.
Oh, okay. Because I'm piecing your story together, so I'm like, well, where you at? That is like that I've never seen. That's what,
Yeah, yeah, it's deep, man. And anybody who looks so-called black is Afro Costa Rican, and yeah, the same over here.
Mm,
but everybody here don't go into Afro, bro. That's wild.
yeah. Yeah, we actually traced our lineage. We both sides of my family, pretty much have the longest line of heritage is here in South Carolina. But we actually found that a lot of our ancestors, as we look over time, they actually kind of migrated out of the Yucatan. You know what I'm saying? So I got like family members that migrated from Belize, what is called Belize now. I got family members that migrated, from Guatemala, what is called Guatemala now.
Yeah,
Craziest thing is when you look at some of those people, they're not the people that you see on the TV. They're not the people that you see in the magazines and in the movies. Those people look like, they're very dark and very, I guess what you call African American looking people.
yeah, it's a deep ancestry. Yeah, part of the I traced on my Indian side was the Chorotega. The Chorotega were coming from Cholula, Mexico. They
Mm,
were the Toltec people that had fled. They had settled down, and before they were going all the way to Peru, but they were settled along the way too. And Huetar was the main indigenous tribe here in Costa Rica, and that was the chief, the main chief that was here, Garavito. That's my direct ancestor on both sides of my family, my dad and mom. So reclaiming for me it means a lot. I try to live like what you're saying. I try to grow, and I farm and try to live my spirituality, and I acknowledge all my lines. I ain't gonna let the other side go too, because it's a deep ancestry too there with the Sephardic Jews and the Moors that were coming in.
definitely,
There's a deep history there.
definitely. Yeah, I don't deny any part of my bloodline, man. I can show you pictures of some of my ancestors. They look like old white oil miners and
I
coal.
was gonna say that
Yeah.
includes the European
Oh,
side as
definitely,
well,
definitely.
bro. Like, and then oh my God, we talking about reclaiming. I'm not about to take my turn yet. I just want to say this: you never know who you related to, and if you got them blood ties, go get what's yours. Because my 13th great grandfather is King James.
There you
Mm,
go. There you go.
mm.
I'm not saying people like to project him as being some type of crazy homosexual and everything. He made a lot of children, bro.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's dope.
one thing I'm about is leaving lasting impressions. That MFer is still remembered this day, bro.
Blessings. That's deep.
I'm
That's
like,
deep,
so
bro.
like that's called legacy. That's foundation.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
and you can be mad at a winner all day, but like they still won. People hate LeBron, he's still a winner. People hate Michael, he's still a winner. They hate all the Michaels, they still winners, bro.
I mean, that's something I found out like a few years ago, man. I spent my whole life, like my childhood, growing up in Roundo, South Carolina, and that's my fourth generation grandfather. I'm a direct descendant of Chief Roundo. You know what I'm saying? Like, and had no idea. My family like don't even deny it. It was like, oh yeah, we knew we was in there. I'm like, what? Where was that?
You know how that changes a child's mindset, how they operate when they know, like, this is why I got melanated cartoon characters and action figures for my children so they can see what greatness looks like them. That's the reason why I love Ifa and the Orishas, because it gives them melanated deities.
Fact.
And then a sense of power that is their same complexion. And then when you got a little bossy child, this is the reason why they keep giving us damn slave stories, because it puts us down. If you realize you're a direct descendant of deity, God, greatness, how you gonna walk with your chest out all the time?
Exactly.
And they can't stand when we do that, because they be like, "Man, your place, boy."
It ruins the power structure, man. It's not convenient for my slave to feel like he's a master. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all should watch the new series that just came out on Amazon. It's called Them. I just started watching it today. I'm already like on episode 7. It's only 10 episodes,
Them?
but it's called Them, and it's like a series of us. and it's about when the melanated people first started transitioning into Compton, when it was a predominantly European area. And then it also has like some spiritual aspects, and it has a whole bunch of underlying things that we probably wouldn't even realize was going on with people during that time frame, as far as like how they were treating melanated people when they just wanted a better lifestyle. Because remember, they have the concept, you bring one Negro into the community, they're going to start calling their cousins in, and this is the type of stuff they're depicting in the show. But it's very well written. The climaxes is great. It's great. I recommend it. It's not like no history thing. It's like action packed, and it's really good. It's like people gonna be talking about it in the next couple upcoming weeks, bro. Watch.
Check it out for you, bro. I'm gonna get back to you though. I want to hear your transition story as well, though, man. Ken, that reclamation of identity, bro. What does that look like for you, man? Because I know you're going through that right now. You know what I'm saying? I thought that this question is actually, more so catered for your journey where you are right now, and for everybody who's just been taking those hits.
Well, I can tell you from a purely structural point of view, one of the questions I have is, how do I get tested for my phenotype that doesn't involve going to ancestry.com? Because I got a feeling, y'all tell me if I'm wrong or not, that they don't have a vested interest in seeing this truth come out. So where do I go to get that checked out? But I mean, that can be answered later. But
DJ can take that for you, because I would go to, me personally, I would go to MUSC. I would go to research laboratories that actually have a more neutral point to be able to do. DJ, what you got?
Bro, you made a completely valid statement because of the particular situation in play, which was the fact that all the indigenous people controlled the land. The United States carries a vested interest in never allowing certain group of people to know their direct ties to the land. That's the reason why they started the $5 Indian thing, and they started classifying melanated indigenous people as Negro and blacks. So you will run into some bumps doing it, even though I have been able to. I did a haplogroup testing for my mother's side, my mtDNA, and I did it through family tree DNA, and it came back that I had a small percentage of Native American. But as far as my family records go back, we've been in the Americas as far back as at least 1400s, as far as I could go back and pull. But if it was people here then and they say they never got on the boat, they was here before then, these people just didn't have records. Correct. But they're not going to give me that DNA test that say, oh, you're the original person here, because that means I legally have a claim in order to go pretty much claim whatever land my people stepped their foots on back then. And that's another aspect that come into reclaiming, like going back to go get your land. But I was able to find decent results through family tree DNA. Whatever system you go through, you're going to find different things. Like people go through African ancestry, but that's mainly to tie you into a place in Africa. Now, there is a company that was doing it in Canada. They were forced to stop because they were giving people really high-end indigenous results. So if it is a company that's out here promoting it, unless they're promoting your indigenous DNA ancestry, you're not going to really find the results that you're looking for. But like I said, I didn't have any issues with family tree DNA. They also sent me migration patterns. That way I was able to actually see the patterns that my haplogroup traveled. So based on me seeing this, I was able to see that certain people were Moors. They were the first people in the Americas. So just by having this and me understanding what it was, I was able to have evidence that I am an indigenous American. So that is one good company, Family Tree DNA.
Family Tree DNA. Okay. Yeah. All right. But what this means,
I like to add in just a suggestion also. I don't know if you guys are aware, but can I screen share a little bit or?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me give you control real quick.
I don't know if you guys know what a genealogy is, like the building your family tree.
Yeah, I use to build out my family. Ancestry is attached to the largest archives within the United States, which is found in Atlanta, Georgia. So they have all of the newspaper records, death records, birth records, social security applications. But that is, if you ever doing a genealogy report, like usually they are the main people. Yeah, that is like
So
ancestry. They got all
I,
the.
I helped this brother out today. Well, him. I help out people with their genealogy all the time, and you know, DNA tests, man, they're never gonna show you ancestry. What they show you is relation, that you're related somehow to that person. It's not who came first. You can't say, just because you're related to somebody in whatever they're saying, Spain or Africa or somebody. There's a history between both of you that relates you together, but doesn't mean you who came first. You could have been older. You're, you could come. He can come from you. It's basically, but they make you think it's origin wherever they're putting you out there, relating you to. But genealogy is with real records, and the Later Day Saints, which are the Mormons, they scanned all this stuff. They have all they own FamilySearch.org, they own Ancestry, they own most of the genealogical sites. They
Yes,
know who
they.
you guys are. Trust me, they know who you guys are, and they've been keeping it a secret. And they never thought we would start doing our genealogy, like really, really doing our genealogy. Now, because a lot of people are doing it now, there's a lot more hints and everything. You can go really far. You can verify the information based on the records that are popping up. And most of it, a lot of people already have their family genealogy Bibles and all this stuff. And that's what I would recommend if you'd like to try it out, for you to do on your. This is what I meant when I earlier about, when you're Cape Verdean, you told me you're Cape Verdean and everything. You should do your genealogy. And if you could get to just basic info like yourself, your parents, and your grandparents, like where they were born, what years they died, maiden names, surnames, it'll start giving you hints. You start looking at the hints, you start verifying the siblings, and you start seeing these are all family people, and it starts going, and it's getting a lot better. There is a little barrier in the 1800s, because when you reach the 1800s, you're supposed to be already African slaves, right? You ain't supposed to own land. You ain't supposed to be a Civil War soldier. You ain't supposed to be a police officer in Atlanta in 1850. Things that I found, colored people,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, all this stuff, So and it's possible when once you break that barrier from the 1800s, and it happens in a lot of lines, not maybe not all of them. But if you're just looking at one line and you're not leaving out, you don't know what's in your family. That's what I'm saying. You got hundreds of grandmas and grandpas, and these are direct ancestors. You can't. There's a whole history here that you can't leave out if you really want to know. Because it's easy to just claim one thing, just be like, I'm this, I'm that. You know, when I first started making my videos, I I was seeing that, okay, they weren't bringing Africans, so logically they were all had to have been here. That was what we were finding out in our journey.
Blessing.
But even though we knew there was Black Europeans, we never associated like literally the colonists, hundreds of thousands of Black Europeans came as indentured servants, convicts, prisoners of war, colonists, conquistadors, every kind, man, every kind. They were sending hundreds of thousands to plantations as indentured servants all over the Americas, Caribbean, Latinos, Black Spaniards, all these people. And a lot of these people, again, were mixing with the Indians. A lot of these people knew who was over here, especially the Sephardic Jews and Moors. They had trade going on way back. They already had the trade and link going back and forth in Brazil, especially. They were going to Brazil, and the Portuguese, the Iberians, because we think of Portuguese, we think of white people, but it wasn't like that 14, 1300s, you know. Um, so, they were going to Brazil back and forth. There was a lot of trade. The East Coast
How old
Indians.
European then in the 14th? It was only like 700. I mean, that wasn't even
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
Nah, but to your point too, the trade records, man, like South Carolina actually has a tribe called the Kofitachiki, right? And they have records of the first inhabitants with the Kofitachiki tribe was one of the biggest river tribes, known to man, East Coast tribe. And they actually had matriarchal society like most indigenous tribes were. She actually was wearing a pearl necklace. And Europeans, so-called white Europeans were actually very poor, You know, they were not, you know, these big, rich, wealthy, the symbols that you see, that's not true. When they came over here, they had never seen wealth in any indigenous place other than America. America is one of the most wealthy epic centers in the world. And when they got here, they actually started establishing trade with their tribe, and their tribe actually helped them become one of the biggest and most influential shipping companies in the world. And one of those first companies, as we all know, is the Dutch East Indian Trading Company. There's actually records of them meeting with the Kofi the Chiki right here in South Carolina Archives. So, you know, like what you said, man, like what both you brothers said, like the history of them being the first to get here, the history of Columbus, you know, not many people knowing, to your point, Curion, his wife is a Portuguese. Him and his brother married Portuguese women. Like, you know, the person who told him about America was Portuguese. Like, they had already been establishing trade over here for generations, you know. So, you know, all this so-called pseudo history of Europeans being wealthy and discovering this new uncivilized land is, you know, it's bogus. And it's bogus by Columbus's own writings. His journal tells you they were rich, they were beautiful, they were vibrant, they wasn't sick. Like,
We
you
need a
know,
collection
never
of our
seen
own
that.
people's history, because you know how they have. Actually, I got one, bro, because I keep on my damn textbook, bro. You know how they got books like this?
A good old
You know,
textbook.
the books we get in school. You see what year this say this from? It's a beginning through 1877. Only shit they teach is here is that we were slaves, bro.
They will not go back before that. They call that prehistory. They don't like talking about prehistory.
This is a book that they give you for United States education.
I want to debunk them right now. This is what I wanted to show you guys real quick. So we was able to verify all the way to James Wall and Julia Brown, like Alonzo Perkinson, and there was 3 Alonsos, right? He had that history already, and so we verified it through oral and records, right? When we got look, just a couple lines, right? You go up the wall. So Susan Wall, we went up. That's her parents, and then Julia Brown, you go up. Okay, once you get past, you got Joshua Morse. That's Hebrew names.
Mm.
You know, this Ashkenazi Jews were coming in like that in the 1700s.
Mm.
These are Sephardic Jews. These are Sephardic people from Iberia. You know, they were the ones going for religious freedom. They were being persecuted by the Catholic Empire for hundreds of years since they got expelled.
How much you charge for your service? I be having people asking me to help them with this, but I know this is a lengthy process, and I went back and I doubled mine, because you know how easy it is just for you to add the wrong person to a tree.
Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta be really
So
careful.
I
That's
went
what
back
you
double
gotta. I
check.
don't try not to guess. Like I tell people, don't guess. You know, if you don't know, leave it blank, because you'll go up the wrong tree real quick.
Mm.
But yeah, I've gotten pretty good at it. I started with my tree like 2 years ago, and I got really good at it. And then I just started because I got cool with a new breed. He used to do the genealogy for the Catawba Indians for 15 years.
Mm.
So he knows the whole history of the surnames. Like you'll tell your surname. He'll be like, oh, they go to Virginia. They'll end up in North Carolina. They were mixing with Pamunkeys. They were mixing with Saponis. Like he knows the whole history. So I got pretty good because of that too, and practicing with him. But I don't really charge, man, because I don't know everybody's financial. I just help out really, man, because a lot of people just reach out to me from my YouTube channel and a lot of followers and stuff. So,
I'm gonna make sure
I got a Patreon. You know, if they really want to give sign, I just offer them the Patreon. You know, it's up to them.
Yeah, man. Make sure you throw the link in here so I can share that with brothers, man. You know what I'm saying?
All right, no problem. But yeah, like if you ever want to try it out, just let me know. You know, if you want to just work on your tree, if you have one already, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely start sending you mine. Mine is actually, we did it this is the 80s. So it definitely needs to be updated. But the one I had, my oldest ancestor, 1820 something. And that was just the one on paper, lived to be 109. It's my father's side of the family. And we were able to go further back to that and actually find out that, you know, that's the lineage here in South Carolina Archives that took us back to, you know, Chief Roundo. On my mother's side, My great grandmother, which I already showed you, you know what I'm saying, Tina Greenleaf Wilson, she was already South Carolina State recognized. So it wasn't even a conversation. They already knew that's her right there. That's Tina Greenleaf Wilson.
Mm.
Green-eyed woman that looks like my mother, actually. Very fair-skinned woman. So, and I laugh because this is her people's, and that's Grandpa Andy. That dude got kidnapped, taken out to a plantation in Arkansas, and they told him, "Hey, look, man, you a slave now." So he ran to Georgia. They caught him in Georgia, and they told him, "Hey, look, if you ever run away again like that, we're not coming for you. That's too far to come for one man. I'm here." So motherfucker made it. He actually told stories about cutting reed grass and laying down during the day and like sleeping at the bottom of a river, breathing through the reed grass so the dogs couldn't smell him. So that's typically not something that somebody who's fresh off a boat and doesn't understand the land could do.
That shit is nuts that our people actually had to live that way, and then even to some extent are still living that way to this day.
Right.
And then we're looked at like as, and this is the reason why I like the new series them, because like they try and portray us as being animalistic and things, but we don't have not an ounce of Neanderthal DNA unless it comes from them. And that's not me being funny or anything. That's
right.
Scientifically proven. Melanated people don't carry Neanderthal DNA. We don't have any history of us ever living within caves. That's the reason why our hair is the way it is and our spine structure is the way it is, because we stand upright and we're outside. That's the reason why we carry the melanin pigment we do. So for them to treat us in that aspect, even still to this day, it makes, like, when it comes to the nation building question, it's like, how do we make these adjustments? How do you force people to respect you?
We gonna get to that in a minute, yo. Let me finish with Trey real quick. Trey, man, reclaiming your heritage, baby. What does that look like for you, bro? Because I got to get to you, DJ. I already know.
So, man, so we already know that I'm still just trying to blink my eyes open here. So it's a very different location for me. Listening to y'all though has been extremely helpful, and I honestly don't even know what steps to take in order to do that after like that becomes a reality for me. It was interesting listening to a lot of y'all speak though, because historically they taught us that Salvador, Brazil was supposed to be the largest port where the most melanated people have come into the Americas, but when we talk about it, and y'all were just discussing like how Brazil was a major place where there were a lot of melanated people already, it sounds like the same exact story that they're just trying to force feed us here, about how all those people magically made it across the never-ending trip of 3 months, chained under a ship. And granted, some people might have made that journey, but just the sheer number of people, like the numbers just don't line up with how long the trip should have been.
Agreed.
Yeah,
And
so
then,
like
and then where are all the ships at? You know what I'm saying? Like, that always blew my mind. Like, you can find like, ships that carry gold from the 1700s underwater right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, they actually find those ships. I've yet to see a diving crew pull up a slave ship. Like, oh, God, this is an antiquity slave ship. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it that always kind of threw me. Like, they find ships of conquistadors, they find ships of traders, they find all these ships underwater, man, during that time period, and never raised a slave ship. That always kind of blew my mind. Like, that really kind of shocked me.
Right. And then they also talk about, going back to another thing y'all said, like how Columbus was talking about how, just the reason that they started calling them Indians, because they thought this was India, because they were rich, because he saw all the riches and things. And he's like, oh, I'm trying to find like a different shipping route to India. So he thought he arrived in India because he saw how rich they were. He thought he had arrived, thought he had made it.
And real quick too, just real quick, Trey, is another thing that they don't teach you in history class. What you said was very powerful, bro. Like, the Siddhis back in that time were the original Hindus. They were very dark skinned people. They looked purple. So their skin was the color of indigo, and indigo was like one of the number one cash crops at that time, because royalty wanted to wear that color blue, and it made a violent color out of it. So they actually got here, saw the same color, and called them Indians because they were dark. They had the skin of indigo.
Man, son, so it's just crazy, man. Like I feel like I've been caught in my own like journey of like trying to like educate our people in like just the I guess like the logical things, like the easy wins for now, so we can make some sort of movement. So like
Facts.
this I think this here is a larger movement that is difficult even for us that are like, oh shit, I'm not even gonna say us, I'm gonna say me in particular, but because I only can speak for myself. But it was hard for me as somebody who is open-minded and thinking about this kind of stuff and like trying to better like our people's movement as a whole to be able to embrace and think about, because there's so much brainwashing that's happened. So for me, I've been caught leaning, trying to say like, all right, this is who I am, and trying to like actualize myself in order to be able to ground myself in something to be able to stand up on.
Mm.
I think this changes that though, because then this gives me a different platform to be able to stand up on. And that could be something that they're doing as well to destabilize us. Like, hey, like you're really this thing right here. So you actually don't even have a strong footing to be able to stand on, because that's built on a lie. If I actually could get on the foundation of something that's real, then maybe it'd be an easier climb up, instead of, because of course you can't build no strong house, you can't build no like no tall ass tower with no weak ass foundation.
Facts. Facts. Nah, that's deep, bro. I appreciate that perspective, man. I really do. DJ, man, what's your journey like, man? What was it like kind of awakening, and what's it like now? Because you've been at this for a long time, bro. So, walking up to another brother on the street talking about, hey, I'm Erie, you know what I'm saying? My name's Red Horse. I can imagine that's an interesting conversation, bro.
Yeah, it's I'm I'm fortunate because I have, regardless of my complexion, I do like my hair and my phenotype matches it. So I really don't get questioned too much when I say it. And then also like I'm articulate enough in order for like I know my information. So what I say is what I say. I really don't get tried on it. But that was just like me knowing who I was the most important part. And then standing on it came right behind it. Like, there's no backsliding. Is no like I don't go in between. Like, I stand on the fact that I'm not a crayon color all the time. Because at one point in time, and I read this book, it was the book Patah, a book like this thick, bro. It's super thin. And it speaks on how the most intelligent man can, like simplify his teachings to the point where he can deal with a child. And even though like I completely agree with that, but I'm like, I'm not gonna dumb myself down in order to appease this world. And that's really what I feel like we're being forced to do in some aspects, for those of us who know, and those of us who are conscious of the situation. We're still being forced to tiptoe around situations. So in my personal awakening, if it was a lot of me being outspoken, because I seen so much passiveness as it pertained to the situation. And Tupac, I believe it was like Tupac, I said it like, you got so much energy until you're like 30, and then you kind of start like dying down a little bit with it. So I was like, I'm gonna use the hell out of these 20s. And I was super active. And I have been chilling out a little bit, but I'm thankful that I was able to put in that footwork and build out the platform, and like, like really put that impression out there, like indigenous education. The fact that even like when I deal with these political people, I tell them like, if I'm like gonna endorse you or any type of way my company's endorsing you, you have to back indigenous education, indigenous teachings. So just being a part of the movement, the awakening, and being able to educate other people, that's really what my personal stance has been, just so that more people can become aware, and then we can actually start. That's the first step, is like first like waking people up, that way that they can start correcting themselves in a situation. Because if you don't know, we can't grow. And then it's levels into coming into consciousness. Usually it's denial, and then it's the aspect of acceptance, and then after acceptance is you're going to have to figure out how do you actually start implementing in this transition. So it's like a 3-step phase. And then, almost 4, because you go through the anger portion too. you get upset when you start learning about a lot of this stuff. So you understand, you mad, and then you start transitioning. And then, but we do this with consciousness, whether it be about us learning about Kemet, being African, Black power, even indigenous aspects. We all operate in the same capacity. So when I went through that in my early 20s, I was fortunate that I got through the anger so early. It really helped me to focus on the information and start, like really developing. And because I had a background in business law and contracts, I seen where the gaps was within our community, and it really was in financial literacy and, like business knowledge. Definitely. So I figured like these are the things that I myself can, like give back, and like mainly focusing on our community, like bringing people into the awareness, like you're indigenous and we're going to operate on this capacity. You have an indigenous business, it's going to protect you in this capacity. Is like, that's really been my my glory, because like I love doing what I do. And like it's lovely for people to be like, well, yeah, my people are this, and then for them to be actually be able to make the ties and the connections and actually have the documents for it, and for them to be able to go leverage, find out they got land. And go, like I spoke to a sister the other day. Her family owns Tesla. It's where Black Wall Street is. It's like they own like 1,000 acres of it. And like Oklahoma, they just split Oklahoma. Like half of that is tribal land now.
Yeah.
Like she's Creek in Cherokee.
Okay.
So I'm like, and she a sister, and her husband played for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, so I'm like, this is melanated people coming into this sense of awakening, wanting to rebuild community. And I told them, I'm like, if you ever plan on rebuilding this, make sure you do it in a tribal capacity, because that's one of the gaps that I seen as it pertains to this particular group of people when they got bombed. They didn't have any United Nations protection, no paperwork protection, no treaty protection, because they was classified as a crown color.
So let's actually kind of segue into that. That's actually a good point. Anybody else got anything they want to add on just the topic of awakening? Because I really actually am kind of curious on talking about the next point. Because I mean, truthfully, those people could have had whatever they wanted to have. When the motherfucking planes come over your motherfucking ass and start bombing you, I mean, it ain't really much you could do at that point. It ain't a treaty in the world gonna really save you unless it's with, a country.
But it's the way the world would have looked at the situation.
No, again, to your credit, you know what I'm saying? If you have a strong enough nation that is an act of war, if you're tied in with China, Russia, shit, even Cuba back then, now you do have to answer for an attack like that. I get you.
During time frame, that would have been a treaty violation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Noble Drew Ali in the 1920s went to the Cuban embassy. Well, you already know the history. He went, and established, more under the United Nations to protect against that very same thing you're talking about, DJ, man. So I appreciate that wisdom, brother. Really do. That's a big key that a lot of people don't know about. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Canty.
John, I wanted to add one more thing to what you were saying about the awakening and everything else. Is
please.
At the end of maybe not at the end of the day, but one thing not to forget, and I'm not saying anybody's forgetting it, but I have to keep it in the back of my mind. The horrors of slavery and what was done, no matter where we came from, still happen and still need to be dealt with.
Agreed.
And dealt with as in compensated for.
What aspect did it really? That's the misconceptions of what's being told.
And
some things happen on a certain level, but even coming to Willie Lynch never even existed, bro. I'm like, that's why I'm like.
I'm actually kind of curious about this one, because I actually feel a little bit different than you do on this one, DJ. Curious, what were you about to say, bro?
That's my personal question, because in order for the traumas, we have to really identify how it actually happened. Because on a scale of how you and me know it happened to some aspect, the way they teach it in school, that's not the way slavery actually was. They didn't even bring people over here on boats, bro. That's why we can't even trust the story we was told. That's why we have to have a real understanding. That way we can actually know, like we can identify the trauma, and then we can go back and correct it.
I mean, I used the research.
Yeah,
I wasn't there at the time. All I could do was go to EFA and be like, yo, bye-bye. Yo, let me, you know what I'm saying? Let me get that hand of E5, figure out
Yeah,
what's going on.
I'm referring.
So
Yeah,
you
I'm referring to the things I heard growing up from
Mhm.
firsthand accounts of the lynchings, of the you step out of line and this happens to you. I'm
Right.
talking about
Mm.
as melanated people, what they
General.
did to keep us in our place. I'm
Yeah.
talking about that, and I'm talking about that part. I'm not discounting what you're saying because I heard that exact same thing about Willie Lynch not even being a real person, being more of a legend than anything else. Well, the
But
shit
Dylan
damn
Roof
sure
still
worked.
walked into a church and killed 9 melanated people because they were melanated. I get where you're coming from, Kenty. Like,
Yeah,
no
I mean,
matter what you
the day
call
after that
yourself
happened.
identify, they have been some terrible things done to our people in this country. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the day after that happened, I mean, I put a rifle in my car because I didn't know where the freaking guy was. You know,
yeah, I have some cousins that was gonna.
and I hit what I aim at. So I mean, if
Yeah.
I'd have killed him.
I'm glad they got him because it was gonna be some serious retaliation in Charleston.
Well,
Charleston's not one of those.
well,
You gotta
well,
understand, like Dylan Roof said it himself. He drove. How many black churches you think he drove past to get to Charleston? There's a reason he chose Charleston.
yeah, but at the same time, everybody, everybody reading that slave master's Bible. Well, I mean, they took that guy out and got him a friggin' burger
Turn
on the
that
way
cheek,
back.
baby. Turn that cheek.
But also, I'm a military brat. So there's also something called strategic planning and also misdirection and aspects. Like there's like literally war game planning in order for these people to implement other strategic matters. So like remember, these are like Sandy Hook shooting, all for gun control. And sometimes they pick these target areas in order to do these tests. And sometimes they do it in well-known areas. And then they make people martyrs.
They're pushing gun control
Agreed.
mug right now.
Agreed.
They really
Agreed.
are pushing gun control very hard right now too. That's actually a very.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
all right. I like to add my
Agreed.
Oh
I like to
Yep.
give my my 2 cents on that.
no,
So
please go ahead, Kieran.
because I think it's a little bit of everything. All right. So when we get to the point, see when we got to stop. Okay, so they wanted us to think that everything was black or white.
Mhm.
That the reality is, I mean, most of South Carolina was black slave owners. Louisiana was black slave. Most of the South, actually, a lot of wealthy black slave owners. They lost everything after uh, the Civil War when Abraham Lincoln emancipated a lot of people. So it wasn't about complexion. And a lot of the lynching and all that depended on the master. It wasn't everybody that was doing that. A lot of the masters owned their families. They owned their own wives and kids. A lot of them. Now, this was through indentured servitude. And there was ships coming in. They were being packed by like sardines and ships and from Europe. They were bringing people from Europe as indentured servants. They were getting rid of all their unwanted people. This included black and white people, so-called Negro people, man, like anybody you would call black, African American. Like these are the Europeans. They're coming over here that they were calling white, that we always assume were white. They were sent to the plantations, and these people were a lot of them dying on the way. There was a real middle passage, and that's what I'm trying to show everybody. There was a real middle passage, and it wasn't Africans. And that was one of the biggest lies ever. And a lot of these people, again, were political prison. A lot of these people weren't even slaves. They just had to indenture their way over here to pay
Right.
their passage over to America. You
Or
would
they
work
were in debt over in Europe, and the Europeans like, yo, you can't pay this debt. All right, you gotta go to America and pay off this debt.
yeah, exactly. Anybody that all that they used any little excuse to colonize. They were. This is a venture. These were companies. Now you said something about King James earlier, black man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was colonizing us over here. And this is what we got to accept. And this is, I hope nobody gets, offended or anything like this, but we got to accept that there was, this was a more on more war. This was black on black. This was happening. This is real, man. And this is stuff you can prove. A lot of these slave owners, a lot of these ship merchants were Sephardic Jews and Moors. They had all the ships. They had all the trade routes. They were the ones maximizing on the tobacco and the plantations and the sugar. They were the ones who first started the sugar plantations in North Africa and the Madeiras and Cape Verde and all these places in Brazil. They were moving up to Barbados, up to South Carolina. They were profiting off this stuff of
More
Indian
men
slaves.
navigate the
Yep, Indian slaves, local slavery. There was more slaves. indentured servants brought out of South Carolina than brought in imported. And then when we realized that South Carolina, Charleston was a free person of color town, most of the 1700s.
Correct.
This is a lot of these Black Europeans were coming in, and they would be brought in to fight in the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, and they weren't fighting because they cared about the country. They were fighting for their own freedom, for their own person. They were getting land grants right after that. A lot of the people in the South got land because of that. The land grants they were getting from doing time and from their indenture, their freedom due, or from their service in the military. And this is like real stuff you can really actually verify. So yes, there were evil, cruel people. Some of them were Black, some of them were white. Yeah, they were doing, but there was also people just, they had indenture, they needed labor for their farms. And they would complete their indenture and they would get their own, they would leave. And, some people get stuck in the loophole of indenture. And that was happening massively to especially more colored people than the white people. And that's how white people were gaining their freedom. A lot of the white people descend from you guys. And they don't even know that. They're always claiming this, great thing was an American revolution. They don't even know this person was Black.
Right.
It's really crazy, man. But we found a book listing
So
all the Virginia colonial soldiers and their complexions. It was mainly people of color. It was very little fair and pale skinned people.
So Curry, man, I just want you to see this. This is out of Charleston, South Carolina, right? This is their museum. If you look at the correlation over the years, as indigenous goes down, what goes up?
They gotta be Black. That's just the way they do it.
Every single year.
And the indigenous people not dying like that.
No, they're not dying. They're not dying. They're not moving. And all of a sudden, it's clear as day. Every single year, indigenous goes down, Negro goes up.
Man, the interesting thing about this and listening to the semantics of all of this, and then even thinking back to like what we talked about the first time when we were having this conversation, I think, and DJ, you were talking about not wanting to like dumb yourself down while having this conversation with individuals. I think you enjoy the shock value of I am not a crayon color. And I can give you that because that shit rocked me. Cause I was like, dang, bro, that's what you calling me, son? That's what I am? That junk rock me, bro. I'm not even gonna lie to you. That junk rock me, yo.
But it's the reality, because that's really what it is. It's an adjective, it's a modifier of a word. Right. I'm somebody who speaks like just straightforward, because I feel like that's one of the issues we have, especially because like we see it so much in society today. People are so sensitive, and we can't really just like be candid, because hell, like they canceled Mr. Potato Head, bro.
But what I'm saying on that though is you saying like boom, so you are not a crayon color. So because we was walking around saying we was Black, right? And he's like, nah, I'm not a crayon color, and you not a crayon color neither. You're melanated. You saying this wrong, and then because everybody nowadays understands that that's bullshit that they saying about, man, like all the people came over on them ships. Black people already waking up, like people of color are waking up, melanated people are waking up, realizing that like, man, like we the original people, like all the shit that they telling us is crazy. Like I don't really know what they talking about no more, but we still haven't been able to shake that because we don't know what we are. So it's like, man, like, so once you hit them with that, yo, you are not I'm not a crayon color. You're not a crayon color. You're just melanated. Where does that melanation come from? And then you go into the rest of your rap, bro. I think that you not dumbing yourself down, it just becomes more palatable in that way. Because I couldn't even hear nothing you were saying at that point, dog. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I was like, what is this man talking about, bro?
Yeah. I get it, because like look, like it's like looking in the mirror and they're like, how you gonna say you not what I am?
Right, bro, because me and you the same.
I'm like, right. I'm trying to explain it to you, but I'm telling you, like that's the reason why I learned to be patient with that particular process, because like I teach it, and then it's just like I do know, like I know the way to say it in order to like impact people, because I need you to feel what I said. That way you can understand there's an issue.
Yeah, I'm stubborn though, dog. So it took me a minute.
I'm shocked at this conversation, because I mean, I know Ken and Curie Mayo went on the first conversation, but this was like y'all missed a heavyweight boxing match last time these two brothers was on together talking about this indigenous stuff. Boy, Trey was not having it, you know what I'm saying? So this is deep. This is a deep conversation.
But I never deny my my ancestry to attach to the rest of the parts of the world.
No.
I just say that like my people from here.
And,
Because
and
I
for,
just couldn't
and for the
understand.
record, we are definitely not going out here and saying every single human being who looks like us happens to be, indigenous, that there are no African ties, and nobody came from any other country. We're not saying that at all. It's just saying when you look at a lot of your family heritage and you really talk to a lot of the people that are in your family here, they will tell you you have native lineage, and they will never deny it. And they'll tell you, yeah, you got it on both sides of your family. Your grandmother there, and you like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And all you have to do is just keep going back and just talking to people. Just keep talking to the oldest parts of your family, and you'll be surprised what you hear. I found out that my oldest aunt wasn't even really my grandmother's first child. That was actually my grandfather's first child. I just found that out yesterday. It's talking with my family. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So Aunt Dot really was, oh, that's, whoa. I say, yeah. That's my grandfather. I can get it. I get it. Yep. Switch them up. Curie Mayo, I know you was bringing up some information just now when you shared your screen, bro. You know what I'm saying? I definitely have the history on William Ellison because he was right here in Sumter, South Carolina. What were you about to say about that, brother?
Oh, about I had I just want to show I had Anthony Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
he was actually the very first person to own a person as chattel slave for life. He was a black man.
Yeah.
And this is Wikipedia, but I got the primary sources and stuff. I showed it on my videos. So
Mm-hmm.
it says that he was one of the first African American property owners, has a right to legally own a slave, recognized by Virginia courts, held as an indentured servant, right? So they're saying he's from Angola,
Mm-hmm.
but then they tell you down here he came on the board of James. When you look at the history of these ships, they've never went to Africa. Any of these ships that they're talking about, like the 1619 so-called 20-odd Negroes that came to Virginia, that was coming. They went and got those people from a ship in on the Caribbean off of Veracruz, Mexico. The ship they went and raided a Spanish ship. So you telling me they're all African? That's all conjecture, because that ship was coming from South America. That's the trajectory from there. It was coming from Lisbon, Portugal. It didn't stop in Africa. They got all this written down. So like these people were doing, like I'm telling you, it was a venture, it was a business. This was planned out. So like they would call it the Virginia Company, the Plymouth Company, the Summer Islands Company. They didn't just say, "Oh, let's risk it and go to Africa and see how many people we can get. Let's see how long that takes." No, they had the whole thing chartered. They had the whole thing like, we're gonna give you this much people, this is gonna go. You're gonna
That's
colonize these people.
crazy how the
That's crazy.
maritime pirate system was transitioned into the modern day police force.
Yeah,
And then look at the part that kills me is here in the early colonial years, most Africans in the 13 colonies were held under such contracts as limited indentured servitude.
you see.
That's
It
deep.
wasn't. That's what I'm trying to tell
That's why
you.
I'm
That's
like the
it was
trauma
indentured
got
servitude. It
out.
wasn't slavery. The whole Kunta Kinte thing that came like through bad slave, real evil people that very.
It's funny. Alex Haley's parents were both Cherokee on the Cherokee reservation. They both came off. He was raised on the reservation, which is crazy.
Yeah, he had to admit, he got sued in the 70s and he had to pay.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
and
Yo, real quick, pull up William Ellison for me. Yeah, I want Trey to see this one. 'Cause this one right here was a
yeah,
this one right
William.
here, boy. I'm talking about knock tears out of some of my brother. Yo, and again, my pro-black brothers, my brothers that identify, see me and go, "What's up, African?" Yo, I ain't knocking y'all at all, but we have to divorce ourselves of the emotionalism and look at the facts of what happened during that time.
Yeah.
We have to.
So I actually did a video on him and I showed the census, and that was his dad. It wasn't no, he
Mm.
was apprenticed. Most of these people were apprenticed, and they were called that slavery. They were apprenticed to certain people for a number of years. And depending on the person's history, if nobody knew really much about it, that was an African slave. And then
So
it was
and
be
also
quiet.
people thought Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin. So this was actually kind of
No,
interesting.
it was he perfected it. Yeah, this guy was really good with the cotton gin. Biggest cotton plantations in South Carolina, you know,
So I know this
only
name.
Yeah, only reason that people found out about him is because they found some letters in the basement. If not, they would have kept it hush. Just like many cases like this that people don't realize these are so-called black people, not
It's
white people.
crazy,
Because
bro.
before they found the letters, they were teaching everybody this was white people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I recognize his name, but I ain't know that
Yeah,
he was
like
melanated.
all his what you call neighbors, Sumter County, South Carolina. These are all people of color. They own plantations.
Mm-hmm.
I showed the census, and they were all black slave owners.
And
And
arguably, history calls him the biggest slave owner in American history.
hmm,
So, you know, to think that our people didn't fight
That's
against,
crazy.
and a lot of people, man, this is where things get kind of interesting, because when you look at the Civil War, there was a brother one day, man. I got pictures of this shit. I feel so terrible. I feel terrible. There was a brother standing outside of the state house one day in a secesh outfit. A brother. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm hot with this dude. I'm like, are you serious right now? He said, boy, you don't understand who your people are? He said, boy, we were the success too. We fought on this side too to protect our property. I said, man, you gotta be out of your mind. And as I started leaving there, I actually really looked at it because it irked me so bad. And I started really discovering, I was like, wow. First of all, the Civil War was fought because they didn't want a union. It's easier to control a large body of people when they all have to hail to one government rule, which was the federal government. Each country, each state here was supposed to be its own individual country, just like Europe, just like Africa. There was never supposed to be a one unified government because that's how you control the masses with just one swing of a sword. And turns out, you know, the North was poor, couldn't afford to fight the South, and Britain came back in and said, hey, we'll loan you the money, the guns, and the ships. If you look at, you know, George Washington, he was a British general, you know, so Britain slipped back in, and you know, America is now a British colony, and forevermore, you know, until this bitch crumbles. But it ended up being, I'm glad you showed that history, man, because it ended up kind of rewriting the so-called myth of American history and the fact that we were all enslaved during that time period. So what
yeah,
do we do on
definitely
this
a lot of
nation
most
building piece?
farmers.
Oh,
Wait,
definitely.
that's a mind fuck though, because man, like it is, man, because it's like, all right, son, so like
I've been there.
we wasn't all slaves and we was owning some of us. Then how does it flip to get to the point where, like, man, like we going to like civil rights and like all the rest of the stuff that's going on, and
allowing
we
you
all niggers.
over
So
the
after the Civil War,
Bruh.
after the Civil War, a lot of those abandoned plantations were our people. A lot of the people who ended up bearing the brunt of the Civil War and being, you know, now what they call enslaved was the federal government coming in and saying, hey, yo, you native motherfuckers, get the fuck out of here. We're kicking y'all out. You so-called Negroes, if y'all want to stay cool, your indentured servitude just got way worse under the rule of the British Crown. When you look at some of the most perverse movies that you see about slavery, that's under British rule. That's not what slavery was. That's not what Fort Mose was. That's not how it was back in the 1700s, because it was more so what we live in now. You live now in indentured servitude. Let you quit your job right now, you're impoverished and you are kicked out on the street, and then they will lock you up for being on the street. So today you are literally an indentured servant. You get to go home to your family. You get to spend time. You get to have a family. You get to go to church, worship however you want to. But come Monday morning, 8:30, your ass better be
Yeah,
here at this job.
yeah, yep. Indenture contract.
So, you know, that's the difference. When after the Civil War, when the Brits took over, that's when slavery became very, very, very bad for our people. You know what I'm saying? So historically, at least. Because you look at Fort Mose, you go down there, you look at Fort Mose before British colonization, they were kicking motherfuckers, white people asses all over the place. Any French came down there, got their ass kicked. Europeans first came out of Georgia, got their ass kicked. Brits came back, got their ass kicked. And then as the 13 colonies expanded and British rule came in, and British rule started to kick out other countries, started to kick out the Spanish and kick out the French, then you start to see, you know, a more perverse form of slavery amongst British landowners. After the Civil War, it was just all over with. You all were getting reclassified because Brits are some of the biggest races on the planet. So, if not the number one races on the planet, the British Crown. So, I'd be surprised if the prince lives long enough to enjoy his newfound melanated children, because well, he has betrayed the crown. But anyway, Ken, you about to say something, bro?
Yeah, stand by. Hold on.
So yeah, but yeah, this information, man, talking about this back in, you know, 07, 08, boy, niggas wasn't shit doing this shit on the public forum. I'm proud of y'all brothers for sharing this information out loud, boy. I thought I was somebody's gonna snatch me out the bed, boy, and cut me up. You know what I'm saying? Like I was,
Bro, you
I'm trying
gotta
to
watch.
sound like William Cooper.
You gotta watch it because they just took young Pharaoh page down. He had what, like 500,000 subscribers on that page.
Really?
They snatched it for hate speech on YouTube.
Wow, because he was supporting Donald Trump. I mean, what the hell? He didn't
No,
have much hate speech.
no, he be talking about the Jews and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's why he got kicked out the
you gotta
C.
play their you gotta play their game.
oh, Jews and homosexuals. You better not talk about them.
Bro,
Hell no.
those are media rules. Them two groups of people that you don't speak about on public forums and like try and shame because like they'll blackball you down the line.
You can, I'm telling you, you can say whatever you want about any other group on this planet, boy. But when it comes to the Jewish community and
They control the media.
you are.
Well, they got me with the title of one of my videos about them. You know, I proved they're not the, and the thing is, you gotta know how to. They don't care if you title it a certain way and you put a certain thumbnail that you're not drawing attention to it.
Yeah.
That's how they do. That's how they do it to me. They'll tell me nope. They'll take the video down. I'll try again. Nope. And then this one goes through. Same video. So like the Ashkenazi, I called it the 13th tribe, the Khazars. So a lot of people don't really realize what I'm saying. I'm talking about the Jews. So they allowed it. They allowed it. And I got Jewish people in the damn video saying they're not the Jews. The ones who founded Israel. They're like, we from Ukraine, man. We came from the Ukraine. We settled over here. We're not even the ancient Hebrews. We don't know that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you know, they and the U.S. government and the British Crown are behind that. You know, they went and carved out a piece of Iran, you know, called it Israel, and dropped white people there. You know, it's
Yeah, but they regulate and they unmonetize and they give me copyright strikes, and I'm constantly, yeah.
man, be careful,
I keep
bro.
most
I
of them,
definitely
yeah.
don't want you to lose your page if you do, man. But DJ and you, I mean, we are definitely working on ways to preserve your teachings and keep it going in spite of
Yeah.
anything. But you know,
Well,
that is.
if I'm reading their own, like if I'm reading the Jewish Almanac from 1980 saying they're not the Hebrews, that's them own people saying it. They can't take me down for that. I'm reading. I'm not saying I'm saying fair use. Yeah.
They'll make it up as they go. You know how this is. You know what power structure we still under. So you know, yeah. But out of curiosity, man, we talked a lot of esoteric today. We talked a lot of history today, man. We know we always like to get to the point when we make this shit real. Nation building, man. What does it look like for you guys, man? Like, I just want to hear what everybody kind of feels when it comes to nation building. Everybody knows me. I'm a fucking separatist. I want a way. I want my own. I'd rather do my own thing than to, you know, necessarily have to navigate their streets, their society, and beg them for, you know, a chunk of land so I could open up a casino and, you know, enslave my people once again. So, you know, I'm really trying to look at some ways that, you know, we can be pragmatic, but also, you know, start, you know, building, protecting, educating, and moving, you know, this heritage forward, you know, as a collective. So what does that look like for you, brothers?
I'll go first, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't all talk at once, man. The crickets is competing.
Well, for me, that type of development will in order to properly build a nation, let's use realistic time like today. There's opportunity, there's money and things that's being allotted to people. I'm somebody who like I will be willing to put like $10,000 up with other people because everybody's getting PPP loans. So let's use a realistic system. Like anybody can get approved for a damn PPP loan right now. Like I have it in my personal money. Me personally, I don't take money from them, but I'm just saying in the aspect or a system where it's logical and people can get some leverage, like it takes finance to uplift the nation. That's real talk. So being able to put people in a situation where they can at least get a minimum of $20,000, you are willing to put at least half of that towards the development of your nation. And then we find plots of land, and then collectively we come together, we contractually agree, and then everybody and them and their family become beneficiaries of the situation that we start to develop. And then we also make sure that we have our education system in place. It's just the main thing would be finding a location. But like I said, or either contract with somebody who already have it, and like you have to have people who are willing to relocate. But like I said, we have land in Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you want it, and like I have land outside the United States, but acquiring land in places where people will want to live, like in Florida and things like that, and then actually starting communities, controlling education, also making sure that individuals have the ability to deal in whatever religious aspect they desire there as well. Just being able to replace the dependency that they have from the United States government within a new community, and then making these people comfortable. That's what's really needed. And it can happen. It just takes for, like I said, I put my money up as long as I find other people who willing to put their money up, because it's about community, and I want to be around people who I'm comfortable letting my children be around.
Facts. Nah, I don't want to say that's 100% on the same face that I'm on with you, bro. Number one, not only do I believe that community takes collective, but also community takes vicinity. Is doing these groups, man. I love them to death, man. But you're brothers that I would rock with every day. You know what I'm saying? You brothers that I would grow with, work with to move the needle forward on a daily basis. And I was talking to Sifu earlier today. He actually called earlier. Peace. He wanted to say peace to all y'all. He was on the road. He couldn't talk. But me and him were talking earlier today. We did a little training today, and as we were talking, man, like he's just like, yo, like let's do something. Like it's too much intellect, it's too much purpose, it's too much heart. We got a group of people who know what the hell they're doing. Let's come together and push that needle for us. So DJ, yo, I'm with you. I'll put it up. You know what I'm saying? I'll put the bread up, no doubt.
I would say I show people how to like take that money, reinvest it, actually bring in some residual income, set up like a 1.5-year plan to where you take that money and then you have money in order to sustain your living, and then also to invest in, and you also have like money like for saving, even though I hate that word. But you got money, you're in a situation where you're comfortable and you're willing to leverage, because like if most people in a position now, if they get $20,000, they're like, well, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. Like you have to be in a position where you don't need it.
Right.
That's the most important thing realistically, because most people need that for day-to-day things, because everybody, like we just came off of a year of people struggling on a majority.
Agreed. I mean, for me, it's more important to do this for me than it is to do just about anything else, because living the truth of your heritage is something that for some of us is past time. You're no longer willing to compromise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I lose sleep if I don't do this type of stuff. My ancestors beat my ass every night.
Yo, man, I'm telling you, just in preparation for this call last night, I couldn't sleep last night. Like my blood was just boiling, just not to get so caught up necessarily in the esoteric side of everything that we talk about, but like let's take action. Let's put a nation together, because we all are talking the same wavelength. Now let's do something about it. Like, you want to take a brother out of the hood and show him a different way. You can't do that in the same hood he's in. He's laughing at you. Like, yo, oh, word, you indigenous, where you land at, nigga? You know what I'm saying? Like, what
on straight A to Z, all the pieces to the puzzle have been laid out, because like making sure that you have your genealogy and you understand where you come from, and then you making sure whatever land you're attached to, you go back and make the claims for, and then also making sure that you have a business or a tribal structure established or a trust that where you can come out and, you know, deal in the public and establish this commercial activity, and then making sure that you have bank accounts that way that you can move and receive funds, and then making sure none of the stuff is established with a social security number. That way you don't put yourself in United States jurisdiction and this particular portion of tax liability. Now, making sure you do business in a business side and in the trust side, we have to also be financially sound in this aspect. But this is how we start securing our nation building, and then we actually are in a financial position to where we got money sitting in accounts, and then like we can just like give the interest over in order to go drop on some land without hurting ourselves off the capital.
Right.
You know, most people don't even understand that concept.
Right.
But that's right there is like $1 million game.
Facts. Nah, that's the way to do it, man. I appreciate the perspective, man. We definitely gonna flush that out offline. That's an offline conversation right there. Yo, Ken, man, what's nation building look like for you, brother? You still on?
Yes.
What's your perspective on nation building, Mr. Canty?
All right. The first thing, and it's something I'm pretty far along, and I don't want to get into the details of it just yet because it's not really appropriate.
No.
Maybe for another call, but and I'd love to share it later, but just not right this second. But what nation building is the first thing you need to do is have obviously the population, the land where you're going to go, wherever that is, because the nation already exists. It just isn't in one particular place. And you got to have a way to protect it. Because you mentioned Tulsa. Those folks had firearms, they had this, they had that, but they didn't have exactly the right way to call in reinforcements. And when they brought those planes in, they got massacred. But a lot of this is going on right now, and and you're going to see a lot happen this summer with population demonstrations in Oklahoma. You're seeing it with the African Union. You're seeing it with UBKN. So a lot of these things are down the pike, but whatever way you do it, as you find your heritage and where you want to be, you got to have a way to protect it, because these folks will wipe it off the face of the earth because they've done it before.
Right.
You know, and for me personally, I'll be honest with you, man. I don't see this country as a country lasting past another 5 to 10 years. It's going to turn into a police state, and I don't want any part of that.
Right.
But at the same time, I really think strategically, there's going to be plots of land here once you get out of these big cities, the Northeast, some areas of the Midwest. They're going to be on their own. And being able to do what y'all are saying, carve out that piece of land now is instrumental. But you've got to have a way of protecting it. And I don't mean you own just a rifle and you know how to shoot it. I mean a real way to protect it militaristically, financially, and be able to call in the reinforcements and have those relationships.
Blessings. Nah, that makes a hell of a lot of sense to me, Canty. Last thing I want to do is have my family be attacked and there's no recompense for the attackers. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't with, you know, I'm a kind of like Nipsey, boy. Shit, something happened to me, you better ride for me. Shit, fuck all that extra shit. I don't want no slow singing and flower bringing. You know what I'm saying? Like I want somebody to go out here and get it for me. You know what I'm saying? Because hey, honest to God, truth is, man, like people have this misconception that, you know, revenge and justice are the same thing. They're not. You know what I'm saying? If you've been wronged, the wronger has to make that right before there can be any forgiveness, yo. Because I can't.
Yeah, they're not the same. Yeah, they're not the same at all. Yeah,
I can't keep taking losses. If I want you to do right by me in the same way for the same value that you've wronged me, that's just justice. That's not revenge. Now, if you return what you've stolen from me or fix what you've broken, and then I come after you, that's revenge. that's above and beyond the call of duty. But if you don't fix what you's broken and I take it out of my own right to take it back, that's called justice in my book. But hey, we'll always see it a different way, man. It's easy to keep a slave from attacking you when he just, he can't think for himself. He doesn't have the brain or the wherewithal to want to protect himself. Black people are the only people I've ever seen in the world that would get their ass whooped by an officer and not fight back. It blows my fucking mind, blows my mind.
I wanted to say that's how you know I'm not a crayon color.
Yo,
I drew down on the cop, bro.
I understand the fear. I do. I swear I understand the fear. That's a hell of a situation to be in. But for somebody throwing hands on you and you don't throw them back, that in my mind, that's just proof of the domestication, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, your boy Calvin Candy said it best. See that dimple right there? That's old George's dimple, boy. That is civility, boy. That dimple right there is the dimple keeping y'all from cutting our throats. And that's a deep
back in the dimples.
That's a deep statement, though, man. It is. It's very eye-opening, yo. That was a very eye-opening statement. Trey, man, what's nation building look like for you, man? I know you're an educator, man. You're a hungry brother. You share truth and knowledge with the next generation. You're extremely influential for the next generation as well, bro. So, just kind of hearing what nation building looks like for you, bro.
Man, so we done had these conversations and we talked about this previously, and it's a lot of the things that y'all mentioned and y'all talked about. The difficult part is part of what Brother Canty was saying is that, like, man, we have to have a realistic way to be able to protect it. And like, what is that realistic way? That's where I have the loss at, because if we've all grouped up and come into the same place, like, man, like, we don't got anti-aircraft missiles to protect us. We don't got doggone like satellites that's gonna help us shoot down Scud missiles when they send Scud missiles at us. So like, if we all together and they just decide to wipe us off the map, who gonna be able to get our justice for us? You know what I'm saying? If we all together. So that's the part that becomes difficult to me, because I'm down. Like, I would go, because man, it makes so.
Can I just to that point? What makes you think that other nations don't feel that same way with other nations? Like, what's stopping this nation from just bombing me? It's a piece of paper.
Yeah. So are we saying we're establishing treaties with other nations that do have that capability in order for us to be able to be protected? Because I honestly believe that's what protecting those nations.
You have to. It's the only thing that protect you and have you recognized.
Yeah, because maybe that's the piece I'm missing.
Before we get too far down that rabbit hole, that is a private conversation that we will have after the taping of this video. Matter of fact, let's end that right here. I appreciate everybody for being on True Seekers Temple tonight. You know what I'm saying? Great conversations, man, and great information, man. I love all y'all brothers, man. Appreciate your time and your energy, man. We're gonna stop this recording right here. Good night to the good folks. You know what I'm saying? Let's stop.